You ever find yourself just tired of all the noise, all the constant stimulation? You know, sometimes I watch old movies and I find them calming just because of the pace that things move at. You know, there's no need to brain rot and capture your attention at all times. And I feel like modern movies, everything just moves so fast. You know, we have to keep the attention up at all times. But you know, scrolling on our phones all the time, like just the short form kind of content that's everywhere. It's too much noise, man. There's too much. It gets annoying, you know? I feel like it's really hard to just find a moment of peace, a moment of quiet, you know? Where we can just relax, have a cup of chamomile tea, sponsor today's video. Let this video just be your rest stop, you know? Any of the things that are worrying you, don't have to think about that right now. Just let that go. And those things, you know, you have a good reason to worry about them. There's a lot of fucked up stuff happening in the world. But you don't have to think about it always. You don't have to always be concentrating, focusing, and thinking, and having the gears turning upstairs. You can just breathe. You can just sit back and you can just kind of look at your thoughts and recognize that you don't need to think about anything that you don't want to think about. You can just relax. You can just take a nice deep breath and think about, it feels good to lay down here. It feels good to sit here. And you know, I think it's like the way that we're sort of just creatures of habit, you know. We're not like, oh, I'm gonna sit here and doom scroll or have music going or have some form of entertainment that's very stimulating going at all times. Like, we're not doing that because that's what we really want to be doing all the time. I think it's just a habit. And I think that sort of atrophies our ability, weakens our ability to have control over what we give attention to. And what you give attention to is what kind of creates your reality. And what you don't pay attention to, what you don't give attention to or energy to, also creates your reality. And I think it's in the interest of, you know, the powers that be, if you will, for us to be anxious, for us to be stressed out, burnt out, and overwhelmed. Because when you're in that kind of state, you're not very content. And when you're not content, you're likely to continue to look for something to take you out of it, look for more stimulation. You're more likely to spend money on things that you think will bring you some more positive emotion. But the most empowering and beautiful thing is that true, bliss doesn't require anything. It doesn't require more, it requires less. The act of seeking, the act of having fun and looking for stimulating things, as good as it can be in moderate doses. It's not like a totally horrible thing, but when it just becomes the baseline of your reality, then it does become this this thing that makes you forgot what I was saying there. But it creates a state of discontentment, because to look for something suggests that you don't have enough, that there's something missing, or else you wouldn't be seeking, right? Like, if you had what you were looking for, you wouldn't be seeking. So I think practicing less, practicing giving our attention to time where we do nothing, where we just simply relax. And I mean really relax. I don't mean having a Netflix going that's, making a bunch of noise. Having your phone going that's making a bunch of noise, and all these ads and stuff, that are just, frankly, when you really think about it, you really think of the vibe, for, lack of a better term, it's really quite annoying, isn't it? Like, it's too much. It's just like, so let this be your rest stop here, Take a minute to just breathe, just relax. Don't overthink, don't think at all. And I don't mean try to unthink, I mean just, you can almost feel the tension when you focus on your thoughts, and when you're thinking like logical thoughts, and you're like trying to entertain yourself and figure things out. It's almost like when you're falling asleep and you kind of at a certain point, your thoughts are racing, and you sometimes sit there and you think, how am I gonna just fall asleep? That's crazy. How am I gonna do that? And at a certain point, the effort just stops, and you kind of just float. And before you know it, you're asleep. Who's to say you can't, do that when you're awake? Who's to say you can't just truly relax and let go of that pressure to figure things out? Let go of the pressure to try to be happy. Let go of the pressure to try to entertain yourself. Let go of the pressure of trying to always have fun. And it's hard because, again, our baseline is just up here all the time, and we feel a sense of a lack when we aren't being stimulated. But the more you sink into what we think of as boredom, you start to realize that's actually peace. You just think of the pace of things nowadays. Like Mr. Beast is the ultimate. I'm not trying to knock on Mr. Beast. I think a lot of what he does is pretty incredible, actually, but or impressive. But you know, the pace of his videos, it's just like, it's a lot. It's a lot, and that's kind of how I feel like everything is like formatted nowadays. So just pack in as much excitement as possible. And, you know, again, it's because of our attention spans and what catches our attention, but it's not really thoughtful or done with the intention of, like, your best intention. And I think it's not very healthy for us. You know, like, you look at animals and, you know, how they live, and a lot of their time is spent just relaxing, you know. Even like people, like Mennonites and like Amish people and stuff, you know, a lot of their time is spent just sitting and relaxing. I mean, they work really hard too, but they have a lot of free time. I think if you're constantly filled with stimulation, you actually don't have any free time. It becomes a job, almost. I have to consume as much entertaining content as possible, because if I don't, I'm missing out. You know? You have permission to relax. If you won't give yourself that permission, you have permission from me right now, here to relax. And if you find this video helpful, you know, anytime maybe you need to be reminded of that, you know, come back. And it might be hard at first to do that, you know. I know I'm someone who runs from boredom a lot, and I struggle with that. Not constantly, you know, doing things like super quickly and working at oops, my phone ran out of space. But I think I've pretty much said everything I needed to say. Slow down, you know? It's not a race. It's a marathon. It's not even a marathon. It's a boat ride. It's a cruise on the highway. You know? And there's times where you gotta go fast, but there's times where you can kind of just look out the window. Just kind of see the things passing, and you know, you don't have to figure out anything about that, right? You can just kind of observe. Sometimes when you let go of that pressure and that tension, things really reveal themselves, you know? The truth can really reveal itself. I'll end on this note here that, you know, if you want to see what's at the bottom of a river, you don't stir it up, grab a stick and start stirring it up. That'll just muddy the waters. That'll just make it unclear. You have to let it settle. You have to let it calm. And I think our best ideas and our best emotions, I think, are very similar to that. It doesn't come from the chaos and the mayhem and you know, constant noise. I think it comes from a very calm, reflective old man by the fire smoking on a pipe kind of energy, you know? So just remember that the universe and the world and humanity is full of love. It might be full of hate at times too, and of course that's part of the reality. You indifference and whatnot, but there's a lot of love, and I'm rooting for you, you know? I want you to do better. I want you to be happy. I want you to feel content and not feel like you have to always be running and overstimulating yourself to feel alive. So I hope this video helped. And have a beautiful day.